Monday, July the 18th. You guys should be reading 1 Kings chapter 19, 20 and 21. You should be reading 2 Chronicles chapter 17, Psalm 129, as well as beginning the book of Matthew chapter 1, the genealogy of Jesus. I hope as you read through the next week or so, or a couple weeks in the book of Matthew in the New Testament, you are reinvigorated with this love of Jesus and his family and what he has to offer you as a king. As we're reading through the Old Testament, we're learning about some poor kings, right? And Jesus is a king that we can put our trust in. He's not a poor king. He's a great high priest and king that we can trust with everything. In our passage today, in the book of 1 Kings, I wanted to read to you out of chapter 19. There's a few things that happen in 19, 20, and 21 that are really cool. History things about Ben-Hadad, who's the general of the Assyrian army, and they came in, the Armenians. And there's other still cool things that happen. Ahab defeats Ben-Hadad. All these things happen. A prophet comes and he condemns Ahab. I want to talk about something else, though. I want to read with you, in case you haven't had a chance to read it yet, in 1 Kings chapter 19. Starting in verse 19, it says this. So Elijah went from there and found Elisha, son of Shaphat. Elisha was plowing with 12 yoke of oxen, and he himself was driving the 12th pair. Elijah went up to him, threw his cloak around him. Elisha then left his ox and ran after Elijah. Let me kiss my father and mother goodbye, he said, and then I'll come with you. Go back, Elijah replied. What have I done to you? So Elijah left him and went back. He took his yoke of oxen and slaughtered them. He burned the plowing equipment to cook the meat and gave it to the people, and they ate. Then he went out and followed Elijah and became his servant. I wanted to point this out. It's a weird little story. It's not much that happens here, because then we jump into Ben-Hadad, we jump into Ahab, we jump into all these guys, and the next thing we know, Elijah is going to be taken up in a chariot of fire. I know. I told you, spoiler alert, right? But he does. He gets taken up into a thing of fire, and Elisha becomes the next prophet. And what we see here is that Elijah came out of this confrontation with King Ahab on the mountain. He came out of this area and he flees from Carmel to Horeb. He flees to hide. He's exhausted. He's tired. He's worried that God is done with him, that God can't use him, that he's one of the only prophets remaining. And he freaks out. And God feeds him. He tells him to take a nap and to rest. And then he reminds him he has a mission. Elijah, you're not alone. Elijah, there's people who serve me still, even though you feel like you're alone. Elijah, I have work for you. Leave this place and get back to work. And I love this story because as soon as he leaves that place of Horeb, he goes out and he sees and finds Elisha. You and I live in a culture that's so draining at times. Sometimes it can feel like you and I are the only Christians remaining, right? We feel like we're the only ones following Jesus, and it's just not true. There's other people out there, not just in America, but all over the world who are learning to trust in God and take next steps of following him. But one of the things that I love about this passage is the reminder that our faith can't stop with us. Elijah did some really cool things for God. Elijah did so many things in the name and the power of God, and he could have ended there, but his job wasn't done yet. That's what God told him. And you know what he did? He went out and he found someone else to pour into. And Elisha would become a prophet that was even cooler, even greater than Elijah. In terms of like looking through his story, Elijah's still going to be the one that gets pointed to from the New Testament. He's still like the apex of what a prophet should be. But in terms of cool stories, actually, Elisha has some cooler stories that happen. And I wanted to point this out because as we are living lives for Jesus, one of the things he calls us to do is to be a disciple who makes more disciples. Who are you pouring into? Who are you helping to learn to take next steps of following Jesus? Who can you invite to breakfast with you? Who can you invite to coffee with you or lunch at your house after a church on a Sunday? Who can you start investing into now? It's the next generation of Jesus followers. It doesn't necessarily have to be someone who's physically younger than you. It doesn't have to be someone if you're in your 30s or in their 20s or teens. But it needs to be someone spiritually younger than you that you're pouring into and helping them journey along this faith path with Jesus. And then encouraging them to find people to pour into, and encouraging that person to find someone to pour into. And it continues on like a domino effect as we push forward the mission of the kingdom of God. As church, we learn to be a people who glorify God by being disciples, people who love and obey Jesus by making more disciples everywhere we go. We come into his presence, we thrive as family, we go on mission. Who can you pour into? If you need help taking that next step, reach out to us. We'd love to help you partner with someone taking next steps with Jesus. Until we see you again, you are sent.